Welcome back to the deep dive. Everywhere you look, the news is just a constant.
Yeah.
A constant stream of hype and fear and fascination about artificial intelligence.
It's overwhelming.
It is. You hear about massive layoffs, impossible technologies, the future of everything, sometimes all in the same headline.
Right.
But today, we're going to do what we always do. We're moving past the conjecture. We're doing a deep dive into the factual, documented impact of generative AI.
What is the real numbers?
Exactly. We're looking at how it's tearing through the workforce, reshaping the economy. And this is the critical part for me, how it's kicking off this staggering trillion-dollar infrastructure race in the physical world, a race that, affects every single person on the planet.
That's right. And for this, our sources are, well, they're powerful and they're varied. We've pulled together these really rigorous analyses from major institutions. You're talking Brookings, McKinsey Global Institute, Oxford University.
The heavy hitters.
The heavy hitters. And we've combined that with critical reports coming out of tech hubs like MIT and Stanford. Plus, we have deep dives tracking the, frankly, shocking speed of this technology's adoption and the just massive capital and energy spending that's driving this whole revolution.
So what's our mission today? What are we trying to figure out?
Well, our mission is really twofold. It hinges on two parallel, urgent narratives that you really need to get your head around right now.
Okay.
First, as the world shifts, which human jobs are truly safe, which are vulnerable? And what's the new global tally for, displacement versus actual job creation?
And the second narrative.
The second is the tectonic, often hidden shift happening in the background. In technology, yes, but also in energy and capital. It's the physical infrastructure build-out that is powering all of this change. It's the story nobody's really telling.
Okay, so to set the stage for the scale of this change, let's just start with a shock statistic, one that really frames the magnitude of the disruption.
Let's do it.
Studies are suggesting that up to 30% of current U.S. jobs could be fully automated by 2030.
30%, just let that sink in. That's nearly a third of the workforce potentially gone, or at least changed beyond recognition.
And if you're listening thinking, okay, I'm not in that 30%, you're probably still affected, right?
Oh, absolutely. If we broaden the scope, the reports indicate that 60% of all jobs will see significant task-level changes. So think of it less as your job just disappearing overnight.
Right.
And more like a total restructuring of your day-to-day work. The human job description is going to change fundamentally to leverage the AI, not to compete with it.
But, and this is critical, we have to address the fear with the facts.
Yeah.
The narrative is complex. The same reports that project all this displacement also point to massive growth.
Yes, this is the other side of the coin. While AI and robotics are projected to displace, something like 85 million jobs globally by 2025.
Which is a huge number.
A huge number. But they're simultaneously projected to create 97 million new roles.
97 million, so a net gain.
A net gain globally. It's not just a loss. It's a massive, rapid exchange of job types and the skills you need to do them.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. We have to understand that this is not just another wave of automation. It's fundamentally different.
Totally different.
When we talk about, the automation of your grandparents' generation, we usually mean assembly lines, routine blue-collar work, maybe some simple clerical tasks like filing.
Right, things that are repetitive and physical.
Exactly. Jobs characterized by repetition and simple physical or cognitive execution. Generative AI, however, is aimed squarely at cognitive, white-collar, middle to higher paid professions. That is the paradigm shift. That's the core aha moment we're facing, and it dictates literally everything that follows.
This is not your grandparents' automation. Not even close.
So why is this wave so different? What is it about generative AI's capabilities that makes it so disruptive to, the corner office instead of the factory floor?
Well, the reason it feels so different is because for decades, traditional automation was what economists call skill-biased. Skill-biased?
Okay.
Yeah, it basically substituted for routine manual skills, like an arm on an assembly line, while it actually complemented the non-routine, complex cognitive skills of higher-paid jobs.
So it made the smart person smarter.
Exactly. The computer made the manager, the analyst, the strategist more productive. It was a tool to enhance their work. Generative AI completely upends that entire paradigm.
Go so.
Because it excels precisely at mimicking and executing those complex, non-routine cognitive skills that we used to think were impossible for computers.
Like what specifically?
Things like generating nuanced text, predictive modeling, doing complex research, and even a degree of what looks an awful lot like creativity. And crucially, it's all digital. It's focused entirely on information-based tasks, not physical robots.
So to put a finer point on those capabilities,
Right.
if we look at the data from OpenAI and corporate case studies, we can see what these models are doing right now, today.
And it's pretty stunning.
It is. They can perform legal research and even draft initial counsel documents. That used to be the job of, expensive paralegals and junior associates. They're excellent at generating new content marketing copy, video scripts, even production-grade code.
And translating complex technical documents between languages in seconds.
But the one that really gets me, maybe the most disruptive capability, is the ability to summarize massive, disparate documents and analyze written information to inform complex strategic decisions.
This is the game changer for knowledge work.
It has to be. I mean, when you have an AI that can ingest 10,000 pages of quarterly reports and legal filings and then spit out the 3 most important risks in an hour, that changes the value of a human analyst overnight.
That ability to analyze and synthesize information so rapidly, that's the core of white-collar productivity. And it's why we often hear generative AI referred to as a disembodied technology, at least for now.
Okay, disembodied. Let's break that down. What does that practically mean?
It means its disruption is purely digital.
Yeah.
It operates entirely on the information layer of the economy. It's replacing the need for human hands to process the information, which in theory frees them up for the higher level stuff.
Interpretation, strategy, client interaction.
Exactly. The things that still require a human touch.
Okay, here's where it gets, for me, really interesting. It's the speed of adoption.
The velocity is it's off the charts.
Previous tech shifts, like the PC in the 70s or the smartphone in the late 2000s, took years, sometimes decades, to go from being a novelty to being widely adopted in business.
Oh yeah, a long, slow burn.
The internet itself took something like 13 years to hit 100 billion users.
And generative AI is moving at this completely unprecedented velocity. The main reason is that the prerequisite infrastructure, the cloud, high-speed internet, smartphones, laptops, it's all already in place. The rails were already laid.
And the benchmark for this is ChatGPT.
The definitive benchmark. ChatGPT became the fastest spreading tech platform in history. It reached 1 billion monthly visits in just 4 months after its launch in late 2022.
4 months. Compared to 13 years for the internet, that acceleration is it's stunning. It signals that the market was absolutely primed and ready for this capability.
The demand was latent. It was just waiting for the tool to arrive.
And we're seeing the use cases shift so quickly from, novelty stuff, asking it to write a poem or suggest a vacation spot, to being a necessity in the workplace.
The data on this is fascinating. In mid-2024, the usage was split roughly 53% personal and 47% work-related.
Okay, so about half and half.
But that has already shifted dramatically. Newer data shows work-related use is now the dominant force at 73%.
73%? Wow.
That 73% figure should really stop you in your tracks. It shows that individuals and teams are bypassing the slow corporate adoption cycles. We'll talk about this later. It's called shadow AI.
So people are just using it on their own, whether
Sure.
their company has a policy or not.
Exactly. They're rapidly integrating these bots into their daily routines because it makes them more productive. Employees realize, hey, if I use this, I save hours every week. So they adopt it, whether the central IT department is ready or not.
And this speed, combined with this new target cognitive work, that leads directly to those high-exposure, high-pay findings you see from Brookings and OpenAI.
Right. Their analysis suggests that more than 30% of all workers could see at least half of their occupation's tasks disrupted by the AI technology we have right now.
50% of their tasks. So your job might not be gone, but half of what you do every day could be done by a machine.
And remember, we're not talking about minimum wage or the lowest skill jobs here. The targeted sectors are higher paying fields, often requiring advanced degrees.
So what are we talking about?
We're talking about major segments of STEM, so science, tech, engineering, math. We're talking about business and finance, architecture and engineering, and critically, the legal profession, law. These are the areas with the greatest exposure, meaning AI can already handle many of their core tasks, like drafting memos, analyzing structural loads, or compiling market reports.
And when we drill down into what they call the automation reality,
Mhm.
so tasks with high exposure and a high likelihood of being completed without a human looking over its shoulder.
Then the most vulnerable sectors become crystal clear.
Which are?
It includes many clerical roles that manage documents, a lot of different tasks within the legal research pipeline, and specific types of computer programming.
Programming, really.
Yeah, particularly low-level code, or what they call boilerplate function writing, the repetitive stuff.
So this confirms the new reality for you listening at home. The disruption is starting near the top of the skill ladder, where information is manipulated and analyzed, and then it's expanding rapidly into the middle skill administrative jobs that support all those knowledge workers. It's a top-down disruption.
So if the disruption is hitting these cognitive tasks, the driver is still the same as it's always been, a search for efficiency and cost-effectiveness.
It's always about the bottom line.
It's always about the bottom line. So the prime targets are still roles dominated by repetitive, rule-based processes, especially the ones that need minimal emotional intelligence or that unstructured, real-time problem solving. McKinsey estimates that roughly half of all current work activities could potentially be automated with AI.
50%. Okay, so let's start with the traditional office targets that support the white-collar world. Administrative and clerical work. I mean, these have been threatened by tech for decades, but AI feels like it might be the final blow.
It really does seem that way. Clerical and admin role secretaries, paralegal data entry clerks, traditional file managers, they're seeing the most widespread automation. Studies are showing that up to 38% of data entry tasks could be automated by 2030.
And what about roles that involve face-to-face interaction, like in banking?
We're seeing huge declines there, too. Employment of bank tellers is projected to go down by 15% through 2033. That's over 51,000 jobs gone.
Because of mobile and digital banking.
It's the total dominance of digital banking, exactly. And it's the same in retail. Cashier employment is projected to fall by 11%. That's a reduction of over 353,000 jobs, all thanks to the expansion of self-checkout systems and automated retail.
We've all seen the massive deployment of AI in customer service. Sometimes it's, let's say, frustrating, but the technology is evolving fast.
The evolution is exponential. The AI-driven chatbots are now highly capable. They're replacing entire sections of telemarketing. In some early adoption cases, they've reduced telemarketing costs by up to 80%.
80%? Wow.
And Gartner predicts that by 2027, a quarter of all customer service operations will use AI chatbots that can handle highly complex, non-routine questions.
So what does that mean for the human jobs that are left?
It means that overall, customer service representative employment is projected to decline by about 5% by 2033. But the critical takeaway is that the human roles that remain will be elevated.
Elevated how?
They'll focus exclusively on the really hard stuff. Complex problem resolution, emotional de-escalation, handling bespoke, non-standardized client issues that the AI still just can't handle.
Okay, so it sounds like information processing and analysis jobs, those middle and upper skill roles that deal with huge data sets, are next on the chopping block. But don't those roles like credit analysis or market forecasting, don't they require a kind of human intuition for risk that an algorithm can't replicate? Isn't gut feeling still part of it?
That's a really probing question, and it speaks to the historical value we've placed on human experience. But the source material suggests that intuition is becoming less valuable than sheer processing power, pattern recognition, and speed.
So the machine's ability to see patterns outweighs the human's gut feeling.
In many cases, yes. Bookkeeping clerks, for instance, are becoming less necessary. Core bookkeeping tasks are expected to be fully automated by 2030 because they are entirely rule-based. It's just math.
And what about those analyst roles?
Well, market research analysts and credit analysts projected to decline by almost 4% by 2033. They face replacement by AI analytics tools that can process massive data sets. We're talking tens of thousands of financial documents. They can spot correlations and trends faster and more accurately than any human team could ever hope to.
That brings us back to those specific high-skill, white-collar impacts. What are the professions that are already seeing actual displacement, not just the threat of it?
We're seeing highly specific threats to tasks that rely on repetitive, close reading. Think about professional proofreading. AI could perform 90% of those tasks by 2030, reducing the need for entire departments.
And you mentioned something earlier that I found really surprising. Young software developers are reportedly losing jobs to AI.
Yeah.
Wait, it's young software developers. The very industry that invented this technology. Explain that to me.
It seems counterintuitive, right? But while the tech industry is the earliest adopter, the generative models are now so capable of generating and debugging production-grade code.
Especially for the simple stuff.
Exactly. For boilerplate functions, simple integrations, or generating code in a new language you're not familiar with. So the demand for entry-level developers is changing really fast.
What are you hearing from companies?
We're hearing reports that companies are cutting their junior developer cohorts entirely. The thinking is that boilerplate code generation has made a $150,000 senior engineer, assisted by an AI, far more productive than, say, two entry-level $75,000 developers combined.
So the work shifts.
The focus shifts entirely from just writing code to defining architecture, managing APIs, and complex debugging tasks that are best handled by experienced and, yeah, expensive engineers.
And outside the office, we still have that ongoing displacement in physical roles, right? Logistics, manufacturing, that's
Sure.
accelerating too.
Oh, yeah. In logistics, autonomous vehicles are the clear and present danger. Self-driving trucks and taxis are predicted to eliminate millions of driving jobs globally by 2030.
Especially long-haul trucking.
Especially on long-haul routes, where the AI's consistency and its lack of fatigue provide a huge advantage over human drivers who have to abide by strict hours of service rules.
And in manufacturing.
Robotics and AI are set to continue replacing manual assembly tasks. The projection is for an expected 30% reduction in human manufacturing roles by 2030.
We're even seeing highly trained, high-credential medical roles facing this scrutiny.
Yes, even pharmacists. AI algorithms are increasingly being used for medication prescription based on sophisticated patient histories and for massive inventory management across hospital systems.
So what's the fear there?
The fear is job displacement. It could potentially cut off at least 50% of the tasks that pharmacists currently do, which forces the remaining staff to focus heavily on the human side patient counseling, managing complex drug interactions, and resolving thorny insurance issues.
Okay, now here's the interesting paradox. The thing that complicates the whole doom and gloom story and provides a crucial counterpoint to all these displacement numbers.
Yes, the MIT research. This is fascinating.
There's research from MIT that tracked job data between 2014 and 2023. So largely before the peak of generative AI, and it found that high-wage roles that were heavily exposed to AI-like management analysts or aerospace engineers, they did not experience major job losses during that period.
Right.
Why not? Why didn't all those analysts get fired?
This finding is absolutely crucial. It's what gives us hope for a future of augmentation, not just automation. The MIT researchers found that the firms that adopted AI, they grew faster.
So the AI boosted their productivity.
It boosted their overall firm productivity so dramatically that it led to those companies having about 6% higher employment growth and 9.5% more sales growth over 5 years.
So wait, instead of shrinking their workforce after they automated some tasks, the massive boost in productivity meant the companies grew their market share, which then offset the internal automation.
Precisely. They didn't fire the expensive high-skill workers. They leveraged the AI to grow the whole pie bigger. It allowed those highly exposed, highly paid individuals to shift their focus away from routine analysis and toward tasks where AI is less capable.
Like critical thinking, creative development.
Complex human negotiation, high-level strategic decision-making, all the stuff that's still hard for a machine.
So what's the open question now?
The open question is whether the superior capabilities of today's generative AI, which is far beyond the models they tracked in that study, will maintain this beneficial dynamic. Or if its superior automation capability will finally push more roles toward full displacement rather than augmentation. The next few years will really tell us if growth can continue to outpace automation.
Okay, so if that's the displacement tally, let's pivot and look at the safe jobs. What are the core human traits that give you immunity in the face of this kind of technological firepower? And what sectors are actually set to grow?
We can pretty confidently say that resilience lies in 3 main categories. First, complex human interaction that requires empathy. Second, real-time, hands-on physical problem-solving in unstructured environments.
Messy, real-world stuff.
Exactly. And third, the ability to handle non-rigid routines that require moral judgment. AI struggles deeply with empathy, moral judgment, and genuine improvisation.
So let's start with what might be the ultimate resilience sector: emotional intelligence and care.
Healthcare. It remains highly resilient precisely because it demands that complex human interaction and emotional support. You simply cannot automate comfort or complex human trust.
And the numbers back this up.
Overwhelmingly, nurses and nurse practitioners, or NPs, they're projected to see massive growth.
Wow.
NPs are leading the charts with a projected growth rate of a stunning 52% from 2023 to 2033.
52%. That's the fastest growth rate we've seen in any of the sources.
It is, across many professional categories.
So why is that growth rate so high? What's driving it?
It's really a combination of two things: demographics and AI avoidance. As the population ages, the demand for primary and long-term care just explodes.
And AI can't step in.
AI can help. It can organize patient data, review imaging, transcribe notes, but it cannot deliver the human connection, the bedside manner, or the complex integrated patient care that defines the NP role.
And it's not just NPs.
Not at all. Other highly resilient roles include psychiatrists, therapists, physical and occupational therapists, and mental health counselors. That last one is projected to grow by 22%.
Because an AI chatbot can't replace the complex relationship you need for a therapeutic breakthrough.
Exactly. It just can't.
And this need for human judgment, it extends into public service and safety.
Absolutely. Just
Okay.
think about first responders. An AI might be useful for logging fire hydrant locations or processing data logs from a crash scene.
But it can't.
It can't comfort a child in crisis. It can't make difficult real-time triage decisions under chaotic conditions. It can't de-escalate a domestic dispute. These situations require moral judgment, rapid improvisation, and empathy, none of which large language models have in a reliable contextual way.
And if we move to the most abstract end of the spectrum, roles dealing with morality, ethics, meaning, they're similarly protected.
That's because machines, at their core, lack self-awareness, empathy, and moral judgment. Faith leaders, ethicists, philosophers, they are highly unlikely to be replaced. Their value rests in providing emotional support, offering mentorship through existential crises, and considering the moral implications of complex societal decisions.
It's a fundamentally human domain.
It is, and if an AI tried to do it, it would instantly lack the authenticity and legitimacy you need.
Okay, switching gears completely, let's talk about physical and improvised problem solving. I love this idea that protein folding, a problem with near infinite computational complexity, is actually easier for an AI than changing a break-in pipe in a cramped basement.
That's the HVAC analogy, and it perfectly illustrates the difference between a constrained computational problem and a messy real-world robotics problem.
So generative AI is aimed at the digital space.
Exactly. So skilled trades and infrastructure jobs are protected because AI just cannot carry out the necessary tasks. It can't be relied on for real-time, hands-on problem solving in non-standardized environments.
So tell us more about the core trades here.
Okay, so think about plumbers, electricians, and HVAC technicians. Their work involves advanced vision, fine motor dexterity, tool use, and improvisation in tight, random, non-standardized spaces.
Attics, basements, crawl spaces.
100 houses, yeah. An AI can tell you theoretically how to install a pipe, but it can't braze copper or troubleshoot an electrical issue in a damp, unfinished room while navigating unexpected obstacles and ensuring safety.
The comparison is so stark. Protein folding is mathematically complex, but it exists in this clean, digital environment where the rules are consistent.
Right.
HVAC repair involves navigating infinite real-world variables. Debris, bad previous workmanship, unexpected structural elements, real safety risks.
That's it, exactly. Industrial robots work wonderfully in a standardized car factory because the inputs are predictable and the environment is clean. They fail the moment the environment isn't perfectly structured and predictable.
Which is why infrastructure construction, civil and transportation engineers, installation and repair jobs, they're all considered low risk.
They are. And even within logistics, while long-haul drivers face threats from autonomous trucks, the physical label of warehousing, complex last-mile delivery, and manual installation is less at risk for now. Manufactured building and mobile home installers are cited as having a 0.0% probability of automation.
0%, although demand for that specific role might decline for other reasons.
Right, as housing needs change, but the task itself is safe from automation.
Okay, what about roles defined by creativity and the personal touch? Are artists and personal trainers safe?
Many of these roles are highly resilient because the value is derived from the human who created it, or from the live experience or the personal connection.
So like stage actors, dancers, live musicians.
Yes, and muralists, craft artists, choreographers. The latter is projected to see almost 30% growth. While an AI can generate an image or a song, the magic and thrill of creating art and the value of a unique, live human performance still rests firmly in the human domain.
And what about personal services?
Similarly, personal service roles rely heavily on emotional and social perceptiveness. Hairstylists, massage therapists, personal trainers, and coaches. Coaches and scouts are projected for 20% growth.
Wedding planners.
Wedding consultants, event planners, exactly. These roles require a personalized human connection and trust. As one source put it, high-ticket sales conversations, personalized coaching, and intimate services require a genuine human connection. They're often protected by social norms that just mandate human interaction.
And in education. While AI is great for generating quizzes or grading multiple choice tests, the essential human element remains, doesn't it? The human teacher seems truly irreplaceable.
The human core of education is absolutely irreplaceable. Only a human can lead a nuanced group discussion, provide individual support for a student's emotional well-being, read the visual and physical cues of distress in a classroom.
And teach things like courage, empathy, creativity.
Exactly. Those qualities are critical to the learning experience, and they cannot be outsourced to a machine, even if that machine is generating the lesson plan.
Finally, let's talk about the new jobs being created by AI. This isn't just about shuffling roles, it's about generating entirely new, high-demand careers that didn't even exist 5 years ago.
Yes, those 97 million new roles projected globally are starting to pop up really quickly. We are seeing a boom in high-skill AI specialists. Things like AI and data science specialists, AI ethics officers, AI human interface designers, AI systems integrators, AI risk managers. These roles are all about governing, designing, and applying the technology responsibly inside organizations.
And then there's that one fascinating emerging role, the prompt engineer.
Right. An expert in crafting precise, complex inputs to get optimal, production-ready outputs from the AI models. It highlights this new need for skills in human-AI collaboration. You need an expert to translate human intent into machine language.
And beyond the pure AI sector.
We expect massive demand in supporting fields. Cybersecurity, with a robust 32% growth projected for information security analysts. And critically, renewable energy technicians, solar installers are projected to grow 22%, wind technicians 44%, all driven by that immense infrastructure build-out we're going to talk about.
So if we look back at the start of the internet or cloud computing, those revolutions took, what, 10 to 15 years to really hit the mainstream in business? The compressed timeline of AI is what makes this a generational economic shockwave. It's just hitting us so much faster.
Let's just reiterate the factors that are accelerating this because it's so important. There are 4 major accelerators all working together.
Okay, what are they?
First, the digital foundation is already perfectly laid, thanks to the internet, mobile, and the cloud. We don't have to lay fiber optic cable across the country to run a new AI program.
The rails are already there.
The rails are there. Second, deployment is faster. It's often API-based, so you can embed AI capabilities into existing apps and operating systems without needing some huge 10-year IT overhaul.
Number 3.
The competitive advantages are just so powerful. The immediate efficiency gains, the enhanced customer experiences. Companies feel this intense pressure to adopt quickly. It's a massive FOMO scenario for management.
And the 4th?
And fourth, knowledge transfer is accelerating through open source models and digital learning platforms. What one lab discovers in California can be implemented by a company in Germany the next week. The cycle is just incredibly fast.
But this accelerated adoption, it's not happening uniformly across all industries, is it? We're seeing this transformation unfold in like 3 distinct waves.
That's a key structural insight from the McKinsey analysis. Wave 1 is immediate disruption.
Immediate disruption, who does that hit?
That hits the digital native industries first. So technology, media, financial services, e-commerce. It focuses on functions like content creation, customer service, data analysis. These organizations see immediate ROI because they already have the data, the cloud infrastructure, and the tech teams for a quick, low-friction integration.
Okay, so that's wave 1. Then we move into wave 2, systematic integration. This sounds like a much deeper, more structural shift.
It is. This is a profound shift hitting complex service industries. Think healthcare, large-scale manufacturing, education, professional services.
And what's different about this wave?
This wave moves beyond treating AI as just a simple tool that a human operates. It shifts to deploying what are called AI agents that function as semi-autonomous collaborators. This requires deeper systemic integration and significant organizational change. It takes longer, but the transformation is much more thorough.
Can you define and give us some specific examples of these AI agents? They sound like they're the core driver of transformation in this second wave.
Certainly, AI agents are different from simple automation scripts. They operate continuously, they coordinate across multiple systems and data sources, they make contextual decisions based on established company policies, and, this is important, they learn from their interactions over time.
They're semi-autonomous collaborators.
That's the perfect term for them. For example, in healthcare, you might see a diagnostic agent reviewing medical imaging X-rays, MRIs, and flagging potential issues. But it doesn't stop there. It then schedules follow-up appointments and orders preliminary blood work automatically.
And in manufacturing.
You could have supply chain agents dynamically adjusting production schedules based on real-time external inputs, like a material delay or a sudden shift in consumer demand, all without human intervention until a really complex exception happens.
And what would a non-physical example be, say, in legal services or education?
In a law firm, you could have a document generation agent drafting standard legal contracts, filling in all the complex variables, and flagging any jurisdictional compliance issues. In education, you've got personalized learning agents adapting curriculum content in real time to meet individual student needs. They move far beyond simple grading to identify knowledge gaps and then generate bespoke training materials.
And these take longer to implement because they have to be integrated so deeply into existing systems.
Exactly. Way more customization, way more integration with legacy systems than Wave 1. It's a much bigger lift, but the eventual efficiency gain is just astronomical.
Okay, so that brings us to Wave 3, ecosystem transformation. This sounds like the longest and most complex wave of all.
It is. This wave hits the foundational sectors of the economy: transportation, construction, agriculture, government. These transformations involve massive physical infrastructure changes,
Like what?
like building smart roads for autonomous vehicles or integrating autonomous farming equipment across millions of acres. It requires multi-stakeholder coordination, local, state, federal, and often significant regulatory evolution, which inherently slows the pace way down compared to the purely digital disruptions of Wave 1 and 2.
So let's put a number on the economic stakes here.
Yeah.
What is the potential upside that is fueling this intense corporate rush and the willingness to spend billions on infrastructure?
The stakes are, they're astronomical. If AI succeeds in elevating U.S. productivity growth to just the average of the past half-century, which is a fairly modest goal historically,
Okay.
it could add a cumulative $10 trillion more to the U.S. GDP over the coming decade than is currently forecast.
$10 trillion.
$10,000 billion of potential new economic activity. This enormous potential is what's driving the corporate imperative. Companies feel intense pressure from competitors and investors to adopt AI to save on labor costs and increase efficiency. We're seeing 40% of employers expecting workforce reductions where AI automates tasks. The pressure to capture a piece of that $10 trillion is why the pace is so frantic.
But despite the technology moving so fast, we have to acknowledge the human and organizational friction that's slowing down the practical deployment.
Right.
This is the reality check that slows down that $10 trillion dream.
Yes, there are two major friction points we need to talk about.
And you mentioned the first one earlier, shadow AI.
Exactly. Because formal corporate deployment initiatives are often stalled in pilot phases due to organizational distrust, slow bureaucracy, or just integration issues with old systems. Many employees are using these AI tools without explicit company knowledge or approval.
You know, it makes them better at their job, so they just find a workaround.
They find a workaround. The technology is way ahead of the bureaucracy, and that creates organizational risk and inefficiency.
And the second point, you called it a critical risk to the workforce.
We call it cognitive debt. Research, including an experiment at MIT, shows that groups that relied on full AI writing suffered cognitive debt and a likely decrease in their own learning skills. We compared this earlier to the loss of your sense of direction after you start using GPS all the time.
So let's elaborate on that cognitive debt. If the AI is doing the first draft of everything, what's the long-term cost to the company?
The cost is profound. If employees over-rely on AI to generate core ideas, first drafts, or complex analyses, they risk de-skilling themselves. They lose the ability to generate the high-quality critical thinking that is supposed to be the human complement to the AI tools.
So a lawyer who can't structure a contract argument from scratch anymore.
That lawyer can't spot when the AI makes a subtle but critical mistake. The goal has to be to use AI as a powerful assistant to accelerate the final steps, not as a full replacement for that initial, messy, high-value, creative, and critical thought process. Companies are only now starting to reckon with the long-term cost of losing that human intellectual capital.
Okay, so we spent most of our time talking about the digital economy, the future of cognitive work. Now we have to shift to the physical world because none of this happens without a massive physical capital deployment.
This is the part of the story that gets missed.
It really is. We are talking about the largest build-out since maybe the mid-century interstate highway system. The scale of capital spending here is just staggering.
It is. Total capital spending on AI infrastructure, so that means the chips, the data centers, and the energy needed to run them, is on track to exceed $1 trillion a year. Some analysts are predicting a cumulative $5 trillion will be deployed just by 2030.
$5 trillion. And right now, that build-out is defined by the race to build data centers.
Absolutely. Here's a crazy stat for you. Data center construction spending now surpasses spending on all other U.S. commercial buildings combined.
Wait, say that again?
Private sector spending on data center construction alone, which is now exceeding $50 billion a year, has surpassed the spending on all other types of commercial buildings put together. Office towers, retail complexes, hotels, all of it.
That one fact tells you exactly where the future is being built.
It shows a massive structural shift in where private capital is choosing to build and where economic activity is being concentrated.
And what's fascinating here is that AI infrastructure isn't measured in data, it's measured in power. Data centers are measured in watts, not bits.
Which leads directly to the emerging critical energy crisis.
This is the other hidden story.
AI is driving what are being called city-scale power demands. The core problem is simple. AI requires energy, vast centralized amounts of it to run those high-powered GPUs. And the scale and the velocity of this demand are just unprecedented.
We're talking about individual data centers with the power needs of a major city.
Some individual centers under construction now have city-scale power needs that rival major metropolitan areas, yeah. To supply the digital demands of AI, reports suggest the U.S. will need to build no less than about 75 gigaW and possibly as much as 100 gigaW of new electricity generating capacity by 2030.
Okay, 75 to 100 gigawatts of new capacity. That number is really hard to visualize.
It's enormous.
To put that in perspective for you, that's roughly the energy output of 75 to 100 major coal, gas, or nuclear power plants. It's like asking the grid to add the entire power consumption of a country the size of Australia.
Or all the power used by Iowa and Nebraska combined.
And we need it in about 6 years. Utilities are just not accustomed to that kind of demand shock.
They absolutely are not. For the last 2 decades, electric sector growth in the U.S. was basically flat. Utilities were planning for low or zero growth. And now they're being asked to accommodate a massive, concentrated, and rapid increase in demand that often materializes faster than the utility can even plan for it. The utilities are quite literally caught flat-footed, scrambling to update decade-old plans to accommodate these enormous new localized loads.
So the sheer physics and the engineering realities then dictate the near-term solution for fuel, right?
Yeah.
If we need that power that fast, what is the quickest way to get it online?
To meet 75 to 100 GW of new demand by 2030, most of that additional generation will, by necessity, come from burning natural gas.
Why natural gas?
Because natural gas power plants are the fastest large-scale generation assets to permit and construct. They often take 3 to 5 years. Solar and wind are fast to build, but they require massive battery storage and significant new transmission lines, which take far longer to permit and build. And nuclear takes a decade or more.
And that requires a major increase in gas production, which has these compounding effects across the whole energy sector.
It does. This required generation demands a substantial increase, about a 10% to 20% increase in overall U.S. gas production by 2030, just to fuel domestic data centers.
And that's happening at the same time as we're increasing exports.
Critically, yes. This increase must occur at the same time as a similar large increase in demand is coming from the new liquefied natural gas, or LNG, export terminals that are currently under construction to serve global markets. The nation is technically capable of meeting this growth, but the institutional and regulatory hurdles, from pipeline permitting to utility coordination, are immense.
And the pace of the data center construction itself is another factor compounding this whole energy problem.
Precisely. Hundreds of planned data centers have individual demands exceeding 300 milliWs. Many are planned for over a gigawatt.
Which is the size of a medium-sized power plant for a single building.
For one building. And construction completions are often scheduled in just 2 or 3 years. Utility history has no precedent for delivering new power supply and transmission lines at this scale and velocity, especially for such large, localized loads that appear almost overnight.
What about the long-term solution? Can renewables or nuclear power ultimately provide the answer, say, past 2030?
Past 2030, the demand will likely be met increasingly from nuclear energy and additional solar capacity, which are the cleaner options. But these solutions require infrastructure expansions that take far longer than the current pace of AI construction.
Things like building new nuclear plants or
Yeah.
getting rights of way for huge transmission lines.
Exactly. And if we aren't planning and permitting those projects right now, the energy demand past 2030 is going to create even greater supply and potentially geopolitical issues.
We have to connect this infrastructure boom back to our earlier discussion on jobs. The construction labor constraint is the physical bottleneck to the entire digital revolution.
It is. The construction of data centers, new power plants, chip fabrication facilities, pipelines, it all requires immense amounts of skilled labor. This is the ultimate physical barrier to digital growth.
How many people are we talking about?
The estimated $500 billion in data center construction alone implies a need for at least 250,000 people in the skilled trades: electricians, plumbers, welders, pipe fitters, carpenters.
So the very same jobs we identified as being resilient to AI automation.
The very same jobs. This requirement compounds the labor challenges in the energy supply industries, and it highlights the core need for human, hands-on physical skill to actually power the digital revolution. The people AI can't replace are the ones literally building the cage for the AI.
So, what does this all mean? Our deep dive today reveals this striking foundational duality in the AI economy that you really have to internalize.
It's two completely different stories happening at the same time.
It is. On one hand, you have generative AI rapidly displacing cognitive, white-collar, high-paying jobs. Jobs that specialize in processing information and analysis.
The digital side.
And on the other hand, this same digital revolution is creating an immense, frantic energy boom, a physical, real-world infrastructure race that relies almost entirely on those resilient physical laborers and skilled trades.
The plumbers, the electricians, the welders.
The nurses, the mental health counselors. The future of work seems to be splitting between this high-level AI oversight and strategic creation and hands-on, real-world complexity. And then you have this necessary new layer of AI-specific design and governance roles emerging right in the middle.
And the core takeaway for you, the listener, has to be the imperative of radical adaptability. The future belongs to those who embrace continuous learning and build resilience into their skill sets.
Which means what, practically?
It means either focusing on skills that leverage that uniquely human core: empathy, creativity, moral judgment, complex negotiation, or gaining the technical skills required to build, maintain, and govern the AI systems themselves. And critically, to construct the massive physical infrastructure they require.
Because the outcome of this revolution, it's not technologically predetermined, is it?
Not at all.
The difference between wholesale automation and mutually beneficial augmentation, between shared prosperity and greater inequality. It depends entirely on the choices made by employers, policymakers, and workers.
It depends on fostering worker engagement in AI design and ensuring workers have a voice in how these powerful tools are deployed. Technology is not destiny, but inaction is.
Okay, so let's end with our final provocative thought, something for you to consider.
And this one circles back to those immense energy demands. While we've seen remarkable progress in efficiency, AI computational performance has increased 1,000-fold since 2018, so it takes less power to run the same task.
Which sounds good.
It sounds great. But history shows a phenomenon known as Jevons paradox. Efficiency gains often lead not to decreased, but to increased overall energy use, because the declining cost stimulates exponentially greater demand for the newly cheap resource.
So making it more efficient just makes us want to use it more.
Infinitely more. So if greater efficiency in AI hardware only stimulates exponentially greater demand for computation, leading to this never-ending need for more and more energy, what are the true long-term limits of this growth? And will human wisdom or resource constraints like the global energy supply ultimately break the pace of the AI revolution before anything else does?
That is a question we will be tracking very closely in the coming decades.